Well, guys, welcome to another episode of FinCrime Me. And today I am joined by Andrew Morrison, otherwise known as Andy, who is a good friend of mine and also a good colleague. We worked together from City of London Police, as well as a mini colleague time at Starling Bank. And I've seen how you've gone for positions that you weren't necessarily, ready for. You didn't meet all the boxes, but you made such pivotal moves to now be a second line of defense economic crime manager at Starling Bank. And it's such a pleasure to have you here today, Andy. And I hope you like our episode and you're also excited.
Yeah, excited, a little bit nervous.
Nervous?
A little bit nervous, yeah.
From the questions that I'll ask?
The cameras, microphones.
I thought you'd be used to it.
No, unfortunately not. No, it's not as nerve-wracking as court. Let's put it that way.
That's very true. That is very true. And we'll get onto that in our question sections. So, Andy, please introduce yourself to those that might not know you. You are currently an economic crime manager at Starling Bank, but you did start as an intelligence researcher at Surrey Police. So how has your journey been? And if you can take us through your career.
Okay, I will start at the start. It's the best place to start. So I'm currently a second line economic crime manager at Starling Bank. However, I started in the police. That was also my first love. Went to university, studied criminal justice and criminology. Intent was to join the police from quite an early age. My parents had been involved in law enforcement, so I kind of had the route set in my mind. I joined Surrey Police as a civilian, as a civilian researcher. I was there for about 2 years, and I was bored. I was bored out of my mind. It was a really good intro. I learned the lingo, I learned the jargon, I learned how the police operate, but I was bored. I was very, very bored. During my time in Surrey, I applied for a more senior position in a much more exciting area of policing, which was organised crime. Mm-hmm. And I was offered the role, and my boss at the time would not sanction me leaving. And that kind of, as soon as she said that, I was like, okay, right, I'm gone. This is just a matter of time now.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I can't, so her exact words, I remember to this day, her exact words were, we like to get our money's worth.
Oh, wow.
I was thinking, okay.
And I guess back then you could say those sort of comments and it wasn't kind of ostracized, and now everyone's a bit more sensitive.
Yeah, I think also a bit more, I'm not more sensitive, but definitely more assertive. So at the time, I took it as she was stunting my growth, mm-hmm. which she was. But with hindsight and now being a manager myself, she had resourcing issues. She had functions that she had to fulfill, and me joining and leaving within 2 years was obviously not conducive to her management. However, there are ways that she could have approached that with me.
Yeah,
it could have been a supportive. Listen, you've been here for X amount of time. We really like having you here. Let's give you some more interesting work. Instead, it was a flat no. And I was like, okay, all right, we're done. So I walked away from that. At the time as well, concurrently at the time, I was trained to be a Surrey police officer. So back in the day, I don't know if it's still the same now, but Surrey police had a process where if you wanted to join as an officer, as a sworn officer, you did 20 weeks, I think it was about 20 weeks, study, and then if you passed that, you then went and did another 20 weeks with the police force. I think that's how it was. I can't quite remember now. It was called the PLC course, so the Police Law Certificate. Mm-hmm. So I did that, passed that. If you passed it, you were accepted onto Surrey's next level training course. The way it worked was that for Surrey Police, it weeded out people that were maybe not, in the right frame of mind joining the police. Anyone who went through the course had paid for themselves. They'd undertaken it in their spare time. So they were obviously committed. So I passed that, and I remember getting an email from kind of the onboarding or recruitment HR person. Sorry, and she said she was like, you got your start dates, whatever. And I was like, I really appreciate it, but I'm actually going to turn it down. And then she was like, what? well,
After
really?
doing the exam and working
Yeah,
hard.
I'm paying for it yourself. And that was the thing, because I was like $3,500, you know, it was fairly expensive. And it was like, I can't remember the details now, but it was like Saturdays and Sunday, 9 to 3 or something. So it was like working all week and then doing the course on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a really good time, like learned a huge amount. But at the same time, it was for Surrey Police. I lived in Guildford. Guildford's a fantastic place, very small. And I was moving to London. And I was like, right, okay, I'll take this experience. You know, I've learned this. It's not wasted.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a sunk cost.
And I guess traveling to Surrey every day would be a bit much as well, especially if you're moving to London.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, it was I didn't really want to be a uniformed police officer.
Mm.
And this is not anything against uniformed police officers, but I wanted to do other stuff. And I've been exposed to the intelligence side of policing when I was at Surrey. That's what I want to get into. So a little bit more cerebral maybe. And I didn't think, you know, joining Surrey at that time would have been commensurate with those aspirations.
Okay. So what did you do after moving to London?
Worked in a bar.
You worked in a bar?
Yeah, literally left without a job.
Oh, wow.
Left Surrey Police, didn't have a job to go to, moved to London, worked in a bar for 8 months, minimum wage, no money. Had a great time. You know, it was in Soho. Spent the evenings in empty Soho theatres, drinking with the staff. You know, I had a wonderful time.
And ghosts.
And ghosts, yeah, ghosts and other unsavoury people that, you know, inhabit the darkest nights of Soho. I had a great time. But whilst I was doing this, I was applying for roles within the police.
Okay.
And,
so you still wanted to be in law enforcement?
Yeah, still want to be in law enforcement. Ideally, I would have left Surrey to join a law enforcement role. I should say as well, this is 2010, 2011. So we're coming out of the 2008 crash. No one had any money still, especially the public sector.
Mm-hmm.
So there were not a lot of roles going. And I actually had an offer for a role at the Met Police when I was at Surrey. And then subsequently that offer was rescinded because of a lack of budget. So I'd already made a decision to move to London, and it was a case of either stay at Surrey or move but without a job. And I thought I'd take the chance.
So you took the chance.
The chance, yeah.
Did you get your law enforcement role that you wanted, or at least a foot in?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went to British Transport Police. Again, I had a really good time. I've been very lucky. I have really good bosses. Apart from the first one. I have really good bosses in the police, and they've always been supportive, and again, got exposed to lots of different things.
Yeah.
And it was at BTP, so British Transport Police, where I first became aware of kind of the confluence of financial crime and criminality, as it were. And the fact that they're not mutually exclusive. How do I explain it? I think the best way. So I was looking at a gang, and they were stealing copper wires from the train line.
Mm-hmm.
It was delaying the trains, obviously causing massive cost. But this gang were fencing the copper wire to a different organised crime group.
Okay.
And that organised crime group was then selling that copper wire to another group who were outside the UK.
Okay.
And the groups were effectively, these organised crime groups were kind of set up along ethnic lines.
Mm-hmm.
And you would not have thought they'd be mixing.
Okay.
But the money. So one group was committing the theft act.
Yeah.
And then the other group was specialising in moving the stolen stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third group that were good at hiding the money. And they all worked together. And I was like, this is incredible.
Especially if they're rival ethnic backgrounds.
Yeah. And that's what I thought. So I thought that these groups would not work together.
Yeah.
But money has a way.
Money has a way to make people work together.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
So after BTP, what did you actually do at BTP? What was your role?
So I was an intelligence researcher. So similar to Surrey, but working with generally muggings, thefts, stuff like that. So not really. The financial side was very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
So the footprint there was not a huge amount. And it wasn't until this crime that I found, I was like, oh, wow, this is, look at the money side, this is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of, I made the pivot in my mind from enjoying researching all crime to thinking, do you know what, I want to specialise in financial crime.
Okay, so that's really when you honed in on your interest of financial crime and coming into the FinCrime sector. So what did you do after that to really get into the FinCrime side?
So after that, I moved to City London Police.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2014. July 21st, 2014, I think. I can't remember. It was in July anyway. I joined the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau, who, as the name says, were the National Intelligence Bureau for Fraud. And I got very lucky again in my career in that I ended up in a team specialising in investment fraud, so boiler rooms. So this is around the time as well when the Wolf of Wall Street came out. So boiler rooms were, everyone's talking about them. I mean, they've been around for years and years and years, but suddenly people were interested in them.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky in that I ended up as the intelligence analyst on that desk. I had a very good sergeant at the time, and we went out and we did stuff. And London is, the city especially, is a hotbed of financial crime, and boiler rooms are running rampant. And I spent 3 years investigating them and loved every minute of it.
So at the NFIB, is that where all financial crimes go to in the UK, or is it specifically within the City of London's remit?
God, I need to look at the website now. So it's the Financial Reporting Bureau for all fraud.
Okay, right.
So anyone in the UK, I think not Scotland, but anyone in the rest of the UK who was reports of fraud, it goes to NFIB. NFIB assess it, and then they send it out to the relevant force agency to investigate.
So you would disseminate the intelligence that you gather to other police forces for possible sentencing?
For investigation, yeah.
Okay.
So for investigation. Why I was very lucky with the work in investment fraud, though, is that City London Police had kind of the primary investigative kind of role for that because it was happening within the square mile. So fraud obviously is international crime, but the square mile where City operate had a high proportion of boiler and fraud. So I got to work with officers actually investigating. So rather than just disseminate to a force for them to investigate, I actually got to kind of sit with them, and be a part of the investigation. So as a young person who kind of really enjoyed this stuff, it was it was fantastic.
I remember the day that you were leaving NFIB, and I believe you were joining the FIU. And I remember you specifically saying in your leaving speech, even if you don't meet the whole criteria, apply for a job, go for it. Why did you say that? And what did you do with your next role?
Did I say that? I can't remember.
Yeah. And it actually inspired me, and that's why I remember it.
Yeah. It's like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't remember specifically. However, I've always been somebody, I look at the job spec and think, do you know what, I hit 60% of those requirements. I don't hit the other 40%. It's not worth me applying. But the reality is that I now know with hindsight, and I wish I knew this when I was younger, the reality is that no one is going to hit 100% of those criteria. And if they do, they would not be applying for that role. They'd be going for the next role above. And I didn't realize this. So I was effectively forced into applying for that role by a good friend of ours. I don't know if we can say name, but over in the West Country now.
Yeah.
Who recommended that I do it. And I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? And he was like, no, like, listen, you can do this, you can do this. So he really pushed me to doing it. And it was a bit of an epiphany for me in that I was like, do you know what? Yeah. And I realized that it's not necessarily about the academic qualifications, it's not about the, like I say, hitting all the criteria, not about, all the experience. It's more aptitude, and willingness to learn. If you are willing to learn and to be molded and to put yourself forward, you're going to get a long way. And I, as a manager now, especially as a hiring manager, like I've reviewed hundreds of CVs over the last 2 years, and I've interviewed, 40 or 50 people. Yeah. And it's you can tell within the first conversation. So the first, like, hey, how you doing? Tell me about, why you want to be here. You can tell straight away, has this person got what it takes? And it might be someone who's come towards the end of their career who wants a slight change. It might be someone who's very at the start of their career with minimal experience. It might be someone who's halfway through, who needs a bit of a kick. And it's not about confidence. It's not about experience, not about confidence, not about academic qualifications. It's just purely character. Are they willing to be a sponge, and absorb and learn and then push themselves? And it could be, the quiet introvert, it could be the loud extrovert. It's just the character of the person. Are they willing to push themselves? We both came from policing. We both work with people that thought they were alpha characters, and it was just noise. There was nothing behind it. It was just noise. And it took me a while to kind of realize that. In that, when I was growing up, you thought the alpha was like the loudest guy, and when you get older, you realize no, they're not the alpha. They're actually they're nothing. It's the quiet professional. It's the person who's quietly confident. They're the ones that are the good ones. And again, that's not experience thing. Obviously, experience, academic qualifications, all this contributes towards that. But it's like the innate character of that person. That's what you can start to recognise.
So what did this mutual friend say to you that helped you apply to join the FIU? Was it something that helped you gain self-confidence, or was it that it helped you see applications in a different way?
I'm smiling because you know them, so you probably know exactly what they said. And it's probably not repeatable, the podcast. It was along the lines of, don't be effing stupid. Effing apply for you, effing, this. Yeah. No,
that was a push that you needed, yeah?
Yeah, that was a push, yeah. I don't know, they recognise something in me. I mean, the first time I actually met this person, I was at a stakeholder engagement with the NCA, and there was a lot of table people, and there's some senior people there. And I was like the most junior person.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little notebook, a little pen, and I'm writing stuff down. And again, it's something that when you're younger, we look at society and we look at especially roles and jobs as very hierarchical.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at senior leaders as almost omnipotent. They know, and then when you get older, you think, they don't know. A lot of them are just faking it. Anyway, so at this event, and there's a lot of senior people there, and there was a lot of like back clapping.
Mm-hmm.
They were all applauding themselves, and I was thinking, I haven't done anything,
Okay.
But it was all like, just by being there and being part of this working group for whatever we were tackling at the time, that was enough to be successful there, And I was thinking, go on. And I can't remember what it was, but anyway, I asked the question and said, what's the next blah, blah. And this officer down the end of the table, I'd never met before, kind of took notice.
Mm-hmm.
And then by quite a fate, 6 months later, 7 months later, I passed the line, and they ended up working in the same area that I was working in the NFIB.
Okay.
And they were on secondment for like a year.
Yeah.
Or 6 months, I can't remember now.
Mm-hmm.
And then off the back of that, they kind of sought me out and said, listen, I think you should do this. You're ready for this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm not ready for it. I've never done this. It's like, no, you are ready for it. Just, I had that pep talk, yeah. And I went for it. So why, and I got it. And that's the thing, like, why you say, like, why did I apply for it? It's not, there's no magic confidence boost there. Like, I didn't think I'd get it.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, like, what's the worst that happens? I get an interview. I've had an interview for like 3 or 4 years now at this point. I get to practice that
Mm-hmm.
in that environment, which is quite stressful, and that's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
The very worst situation is that I come out better than I went in. The best case, I get the role. And I got it. And that was like a real kind of turning point where it's like, it is a game. I realize this now. So that was that.
And in the FIU, you kind of changed what your role was. Is that correct? And is that really when you became a financial crime investigator?
Yeah, exactly that. So for people not in this world, intelligence supports an investigation, whereas in the FIU you actually are investigating. So your output, your product, your work is evidential.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be scrutinized in court, and it has to be to a standard that that you truly believe from the evidence that you've collected that the person's guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the next level. There's no hiding there, and the people that are going to scrutineer it are defense lawyers, defense barristers, judges, the press, if you're unlucky. So it was a real step up, and coming from like an intelligence background where, I was creating these nice fancy charts that link people and, you could see who was doing what. but you're never going to end up in court with that.
No.
Unless you're very, very unlikely. It was all information, and it supported investigation, but it didn't run the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And to be in that world where suddenly you are having to stand up in court and account for your own actions, it was a big step. The first time to court, I was only getting a production order. So for they don't know, this is a very, very, very simple thing. You just want to get access to a bank account. I was shaking. I was with another DC. I won't say a name, but one of the guys sat in the back row.
Mm-hmm.
He took me under his wing and was like, "Come with me, and I'll take you to the thing." And that it was at Westminster Magistrates in the little room off the side, not in the main courtroom. Yeah. And I stood up, and I went to stand up, so I stood up again. And it was terrifying. But that's what I wanted to be. It was like well outside my comfort zone. I'm a firm believer that if you want to stretch yourself, you got to be out outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I was so far out of my comfort zone. I was so stressed. But, my comfort zone grew a little bit, and it kept on growing until I was doing all right. It was
Was the FIU a steep learning curve?
Yeah, huge learning curve. Actually, I should say, so building cases was very, very steep. Most people in FIU were police officers who'd investigated. Started off maybe, shoplifting, minor assaults. And over 10, 20 years, I'll say 5, 10 years, they developed a way of doing stuff. So they knew you get that statement, you collect that CCTV, and you write down your notes and stuff. And then you kind of gravitate to more complex cases. We went straight into complex. Are you the same? Straight into complex cases. And it was, oh my God, I've got £2 million losses. I've got 30 victims. Mm-hmm. The money's gone to Mauritius. I don't know what I'm doing next, And it was very, very difficult. And you have to, and that's when it comes to the character side. Mm-hmm. So when I was talking about, the character, it was like, right, okay, don't panic. If you panic, you've lost.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, right, take a breath. Okay, right, where do we start? And keep it simple. Move forwards. We were lucky as well, and I'm sure you'll kind of confirm this. The people we worked with in that team were very, very good. We landed at a time in that FIU where there were a load of grizzled detectives who'd all done 20 odd years, who were lovely people. And then there was a load of civilians like us who were, in our 20s, 30s.
Now 20s.
Yeah.
Fresh faced,
yeah.
Ready to do everything.
Yeah. Who all gone really well. Yeah. So we had the camaraderie, we had a great team spirit. You could stand up and has anyone seen this? Mm-hmm. I remember the first account freezing order I obtained. And it was brand new legislation. It came in 2017, but it was actually enacted 2018, changed 2018. February 2018, I'm trying to get this thing, and I'm like, I don't know what to write.
Yeah.
Has anyone done this before? And the guy at the back was like, yeah, I've done one. Yeah, I'll send you my draft. So he sent me his draft copy, and I basically copied that, just changed the names. And then you work forward, and you start to adapt your own style and how you want to do it. So it was a very steep learning curve. I think the big thing as well is that, the failure it was a real failure. If you fail, you failed the victims because they're not going to get the money back. Worst case, you're going to get prosecuted yourself. Mm-hmm. You lose a job, end up in the Daily Mail. The repercussions were fairly serious.
They were.
But the support was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And that was...
So after the FIU, you transitioned into the private sector. So let's go on to that, because that is something that is what a lot of police officers want to do, or a lot of, government officials want to do, but they don't find it easy. Why did you make that shift?
Can I say money?
You can.
Yeah, money.
Yeah.
We were civilians in the police, and the opportunity to advance was very limited. Mm-hmm. It was a very, very flat pyramid. It was flat. It wasn't a pyramid. It was a flat. Subsequently, I know City London have actually created civilian manager roles in the FIU. After we left, yeah. Yeah, they didn't exist when we were there. So there was nowhere to advance to.
Okay.
And I'd been there for over 4 years. I enjoyed every minute. So I didn't leave, I left willingly. I would have stayed forever if the pay was commensurate with the risk. And I don't mean the risk of like physical harm, but the risk of losing your job. You know, the stress, you know, that you deal with in the police is far more. Dealing with victims is horrendous. You know, I had more victims swear at me than any criminals ever. All the criminals were polite. You know, the victims not so much. I understand why, but it's difficult when you're trying to do a good job. So I made the decision to move to police. I joined a small fintech consultancy firm. I thought I had no experience in the private sector. I'd worked in the bar. That was it. That was my only experience.
That was your private sector.
That was it. Yeah. Yes. Pulling points. You know, I was good at that. But yeah.
People management.
Yeah, exactly that. Sneaking beers off. Yeah. But yeah, no, I had no experience in the private sector, and I didn't want to work for a big bank at the time because I thought I might get lost in the system.
Okay.
And a role at consultancy. Actually, there was no role at consultancy. I'd met the founder of the consultancy via a mutual acquaintance at City Line Police. They'd come in for a meeting.
Okay.
And this person mentioned them, and I thought, that's interesting. Googled the company. I thought, that's fantastic. And they used to go out, or their job was to go out review firms, predominantly fintechs, from startups to the kind of your tier 2 fintech. Assess their controls, advise them, train them. Oh, that sounds ideal. Like this is, it's not, you're not stuck in, at a desk doing one thing. You're actually going out and you meet people. So I thought this would be fantastic. So I basically I wrote them a memo on why I thought SAR reporting was going to increase. I think I was right. I can't remember now. I have to dig it out. But anyway, they were like, oh, okay, interesting.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Everyone's into SAR reporting.
Yeah. This is like spring actually, 2021.
Okay.
And I was like, because of X, Y, Z, I think this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Please give me a job.
Yeah.
And they called me back and spoke to me over the summer, and then they offered me a role. Took the role, and on day one, realised it probably wasn't for me.
Okay. And why is that?
I think a lot of it had to do with me, not with them. This is it's me, it's not you type situation. I didn't have a frame of reference for how the private sector operated within the financial sector. And because of that, I felt stupid.
Okay.
And simple things were hugely stressing me out. Like someone would say, I'll put together a spreadsheet, put together like a Google deck about some rubbish. I know what Google Deck is. I know what the subject is. I know what the themes are. I know what it should look like.
Okay.
And the simple stuff like that, like massively stressed me out. So I was there for like 9 months, a year, maybe just under a year. Learned a lot from like observing others, but didn't enjoy it. It was the wrong move at the wrong time. So if I'd gone somewhere else first, or if I was going there now from where I am, it could be the right move. At that time, it's the wrong move. And I think they'd probably say that as well. They didn't have any ex-police. They were not in the habit of hiring people straight out of the public sector.
Yeah.
So they took a chance on me, and it didn't work for either of us.
And it's a different culture. Yeah. And I also think it's a different journey for you and I, because I actually came from private to public, and now I'm in private sector again. And because I did have that insight, I knew I didn't want to go back into banking. But if you don't come from a private sector, you're not sure. And like you said, the money looks good, but sometimes the environment isn't right for you. And especially consultancy, I actually think that's a niche. And after being in private, I think the next transition is sometimes consultancy, because you understand how both sectors work. But going straight from law enforcement to consultancy, I don't think I would have taken that move myself. I have to agree with you. I think that might have been a bit too much. But I also think that's now we're saying that in hindsight. And I think at that time, if I was in your position, I would have done exactly the same thing, because you're ready to leave and you're ready to put your skills to the test as well. So I actually think I would have probably, if I didn't have private sector insight and then I got that opportunity, I probably would have taken it as well, not knowing what I have to do, and then finding different things a bit more difficult, because we were within a sector where intelligence was our day-to-day, writing production orders was our day-to-day, and going to court was day-to-day. And then you're having to do a whole different skill set in consultancy and in private sector now, actually. It is quite different with how private sector operates. Did you only last in the consultancy firm for a few months?
The best part of a year. Stuck it out.
Okay.
Hate it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I should say as well, it was a wrong move for me at that time, but it wasn't the wrong move, say, career-wise for me. I don't know how to explain this without sounding odd. Like, if I hadn't done that move, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Okay.
So career-wise, it was beneficial.
Yeah.
You know, stress-wise, mental-wise, horrendous.
Yeah.
But, and I think obviously, you know, for a lot of people that are thinking about moving and, you know, or maybe in careers that are like, it's not saying you have to stick it out and enjoy it, but, you know, I learned a huge amount.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I secured a second role. And because of that, I then secured the Starling role.
Mm-hmm.
So as a career-wise, it was extremely beneficial. You know, I didn't enjoy it. It didn't mean it was bad.
I'm interrupting this episode to remind you to stay safe online. Scams are everywhere, ready to take your hard-earned money. Please ensure that you do not share your passwords, do not click on unusual or unexpected links that come through your emails, text messages, and even WhatsApp, especially when they purport to be from your bank, card company, the government, your crypto exchange, and even family and friends. If you do fall victim to a scam, please report this to your local police as soon as possible. Please also report this to your bank, your card companies, and even your crypto exchange. Please stay safe online. Thank you, and let's go back to the episode. Do you think that there is a trade-off with job security and higher potential for like progression and money when it comes to private versus public?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. I had 4 jobs in 2 years.
Okay.
Having had the same job for like, I don't know, 8, 9 years, you know, previously, and same field for like 15 years pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, massive culture shock. Like I was, like I'm old enough that my dad would tell me, you know, protect your CV, you know, like look after your CV, you know, job for life, blah 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 blah. It doesn't really exist anymore. But I still carried that kind of mental like thought process with me. So I was like, this looks terrible. But the truth is that, you know, again, like I come back to being a hiring manager myself, you can tell. Like I look at people's CVs, and if they've had the same job for 15 years, that's also a red flag. You know, why have you not pushed yourself? You know, and there might be a real reason for that. And that's, as part of the interview, that's kind of the question I'm going to, you know, ask. You know, it might, you know, and there might be legitimate that, you know what, yeah, I, you know, I have been in the same role for 15 years. That's because I raised a family, you know, and they're now old enough that I don't have to come home and cook them dinner after school. I can now go off and do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. But other people may just be, oh, you know, didn't want to do anything else. This job came up, looked good. You know, and it's like, okay, oh, is that, are you actually committed to it? Are you committed to the learning? Is it you're going to drive yourself forwards? Or is it just you want the title? You know, it sounds cool, financial crime, you know, trying to spot that kind of thing. So for me, yeah, there's less job security in the private sector compared to the public. But if you are driven, you want to push yourself, you know, you're doing it for, you know, if you are a pure mercenary and you're jumping from job to job, that's also going to reflect bad. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, you know, and those reasons do not have to be other people's reasons. Mm-hmm. They can be solely your reasons, and you have to respect that. I left one job after I've left the first one after like 9-10 months because I didn't enjoy it. Went to the second one, left that after like I don't know 5 months. They had a change of management, and then coincidentally, the manager who hired me for the second one then got in contact for it was at Starling, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, and I was like, yeah, and it was one of those things where I'd never worked with them actually, but we chatted, and they, you know, I was very upfront about it, and this is where my background, and this is how I like to do things. I know they thought that that's what they wanted in their team for my current role. You know, I've been there for over 2 years now, and enjoying it. But
this is a first private sector firm that you've actually stuck with now.
Long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's been 2 years.
I know. I'm going to put a ring on it, so.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you've obviously had a good few roles. What one was the most rewarding to you, and why?
Policing by far.
Mm-hmm.
FIU, being a financial investigator, investigating crimes, owning the risk, you know, being 100% responsible. I loved it. You know, I loved every minute of it. Complaining about how CPS ignore your emails and your phone calls, having dates changed and you've got to cancel your holiday, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but you complain about it with your peers who are in the same boat, and they're like, and you know, and it was one big happy family, you know.
In FIU, is it a desk job?
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, we got to go out and do some fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, we probably did warrants every, I don't know, 4 to 6 months. Got to travel around the country, sit in the back of a car when it's driving fast, you know, in a stab fest was always cool. I went to Europol in The Hague to work with the Italians, and Interpol and Europol.
Was that one of your cases that actually made public news?
It was, yeah. Almost like we
was that one
this.
Was that one of the biggest seizures at that time?
It's almost like I sent you this beforehand and said, let's talk about this. Yeah, it was, yeah.
I remember we used to tease you about the Italian mafia coming after you.
Yeah.
Do you still think they were coming after you?
Not anymore. Now it's done. But for 2 years, I was worried.
Mm-hmm.
For the people that aren't aware, I had this case, just a normal case. The names are Italian. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely fine. And then a few months into the case, someone had me walking past my laptop and said, "Oh, I recognise these names. These are bad dudes. Don't tell him your name." And I said, "Well, I sent him a letter with my name on it." So yeah, I panicked. But that case, just over 2 years. At the time, I believe it was the largest count forfeiture. So under the Criminal Finance Act 2017, largest one in the country.
Mm-hmm.
The quickest £2 million I've ever made. 5 minutes in court. That was it. And this is something that I'm very proud of. The case was so good they didn't even bother turning up for court to contest it.
So is that an instant win then?
Effectively, yeah. Okay. Yeah. But we had to plan for them. You know, they challenged it. They actually switched the legal team about 6 months before the court case. This is like 2.5 year investigation, about 6 months before. And when they switched the legal team, I actually thought, oh, okay, I think we're good now, because it's a very strange time to switch. And if you're switching, it probably means the previous legal team are not quite happy or don't think they're going to win. But I remember the law firm they engaged were very, I don't know how to describe it. They used to play the person, not the case. So they would try and undermine the investigator.
Oh, okay.
And not try and say disprove the evidence, or present
so it was more personal pressure, I guess.
Yeah, so not necessarily they're looking like skeletons in my closet or anything, but what they would do is they'd look at the admin, like my admin. Has this guy been correct on his dates? You know, is his note keeping accurate? And you start thinking like, God, this is like 2.5 years of note keeping, and you know, like and it has to all be logged and the date's correct. And I remember they sent me I sent an email once, and I think I had the wrong date, and I think I put like, I don't know, 2 days out, and they emailed back and said, "Oh, like you previously said it would happen on this day. How can we trust?" And I was like, "Oh God," and they were just trying it on. There was a very minor mistake for this document that I'd served.
Yeah.
But that was like, okay, you need to make sure everything is completely done, because that's what they'll bring up in court and try and undermine the case by saying, how can we trust this if they get the minor stuff wrong? But they never turned up. They literally, I served the documents on them. They had the full case. Obviously, we have Open Justice UK, so they knew exactly what we were going to discuss. And it was me, my boss, and a barrister, and we were sat there, and no one turned up. And then the judge went, "Okay, fine,
done."
Yeah, actually, I don't know how it happens in the UK, but anyway, it was
no.
Yeah, that's America.
In your roles, have you gained any certificates, or did you need any certificates for these positions?
So obviously we did a lot of police ones. So we did a lot of investigative interviewing, intelligence analysis, some other stuff I can't remember now. The FI course, was really good. So a financial investigation course. So did all the kind of the police stuff. And then post that, I've done the ICA diploma, which I believe is the highest level they do. It's level 6. Done that in money laundering, and a couple of like internal stuff and things like that. And I'm currently doing a IRM, which I think is international risk something. Can't remember.
Something with international
extremely
risk.
Prestigious organisation. Can't remember the name. But I'm doing a course for them at the moment. And funny enough, I actually have an exam on Friday for that.
Oh, wow.
So I should be at home studying.
You should be.
I should be,
you're here.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming still.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the time this podcast goes out, I might have failed or might have passed. So,
hopefully you've passed. What advice would you give to anyone that wants to take the leap from public to private?
It's a difficult one. So I got very lucky. Like I got really, really lucky because I had that move to consultancy. That set me up for a second line role with the next bank. But that's not the norm. I got very, very lucky, and like it's hard work. I had to work like 60-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks to try and get myself up to speed with everything that's going on. But yeah, I got lucky. I think for anyone else kind of making that move, I think the big thing is that a sideways move is not a bad move, especially when you're going from the public sector to the private sector. It's a whole different way of thinking. We know people that have gone to banks and they've made sideways move, and they, have no pressure. They're quite happy to exist there. And I think that's fine. I think go there, get the understanding, and if you have come from a police background, you're going to have an experience and aptitude that will set you apart, and you will progress quickly. And the thing is, in the private sector, the progression is rapid. If you're good, you show aptitude, you show keenness, you show a willingness to learn, you're gonna progress far quicker than you do in the police. So you're not going to go from being a detective to £100,000 a year, second line, DMRO. It's not going to happen.
Do you think that's usually the most common misconception, where people from law enforcement go into private, but they really want to be at the top position with the top salary? And would you say to be more realistic and to do that pivot is to actually go for something within the same range of hierarchy, but the salary will always be more anyway?
Yeah, I think a lot of people they think, private sector is the land of milk and honey. It's better, and like I say, you will rise quicker if you're determined and you work hard, and you will see those monetary benefits. But yeah, it's not. You're not going to move into a senior role in straight out of policing. It just doesn't happen. And if it did happen, probably wouldn't trust your judgment because it's a very different world. You're balancing. I mean, in policing, we're looking at the law. In the private sector, you're looking at what's best for the business. It's all about how do we balance this amongst regulation. And the regulation itself is not like, I guess I'll speak carefully now, but regulations are not necessarily clearly defined. There's a little bit of, and they change, yeah. And there's a bit of leeway there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to balance your business and how you run the business and how you're going to, approach the threats within that business. But still kind of manage the, this kind of grey area that the FCA have drawn around, especially around finance. And it's difficult. And unless you have that kind of business understanding and you've come out of that world, I don't think I think policing can be very black and white, and you have to adjust your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, someone can have like 10, 20, 30 years in the police can adjust their thinking that quick. I think it takes a little bit of time.
I agree with that. But as you just mentioned, your exams, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep progressing and to continue getting these accolades to your name?
Like pure fear. Like just
why fear?
I don't know. I put too much value on like external plaudits and praise, and not necessarily like people clapping on the back, but doing a good job. And I want to be the go-to person, and I want to be that. Oh yeah, Andy's a safe pair of hands. Give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
But to an unhealthy extent. And, whilst that's beneficial and it drives me forward, it's not the best in the world, so I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone, really. And it's something I'm trying to change. But it is a driving force. I don't want to fail,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the, like I say, I want to be like, give it to Andy. That's yeah. I mean, I was kind of like that in the police,
Mm-hmm.
with some of the cases I got given. The Italian one was case in point. It was like, yeah, Andy can deal with that, and I dealt with it.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember walking out of court, still remember the feeling, So yeah, that's the way, I've defined myself too much by work, and I shouldn't. However, it has also put me in a really good position, so you have to try and balance that.
What do you think is the most important skill set within this field that someone should have if they want to come into financial crime sector?
So what, are we talking like kind of entry level? Are we talking like policing or into...
Just a characteristic that you think is the most important to kind of enter, but to also stay within the sector?
Probably being a nosy motherfucker. I think that's,
Is that the key?
That is the key, yeah.
Be nosy?
Yeah.
Always inquisitive?
Always, yeah. Like be inquisitive, be, want to learn. Like I want to learn what that person's doing. I want to learn how they've done it. I want to learn how that affects the business or how that affects me. I want to learn, are there risks in our process?
Mm-hmm.
Like a proper holistic view. I mean, I manage a team in the second line. We have 13, 20 people, and a lot of them came from the first line. And for people that haven't heard these expressions, like first line is kind of operational. That's like investigators. And the second line is a bit more, it's not quite strategic necessarily, but it's a bit more special SME, what's SME stand for? Subject matter experts.
Okay. So these are the ones that would kind of pick out trends and see whether the next steps should be, account closure, relationship exit,
decision
making, basically. Yeah. Okay.
And that's I mean, it's the biggest thing I see when we hire people on the first line or our first line employees. When I first started, they would come to me and they say, "Oh, Andy, what do you think?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, come on, guys, you've been looking at this for like 10 minutes, 2 days, 3 hours, whatever it is, 2 weeks. Don't ask me, tell me. What do you think? No, this is your case.
Is that what you look out for then? Would you say that's also important, is having personal trust and understanding the decisions that you want to make or that you are making?
Yeah. So, in the team now, like I want to shape their thinking so their thinking is aligned with the laws and regulations that we operate under. So like I say, some of it's a bit grey, some of it's like fairly well defined. But it's to upskill them so that when they're making these decisions or they're assessing, this case or they're looking at this behaviour, they can assess it on a criteria that is commensurate with the law and the regulation. So that's kind of like my goal. But it's also to push them to be decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
So not. I think coming out of policing, like you had to be a decision maker. You had to. There was no other way. No one's going to do it for you. So you had to. You owned that, and it's your. Are you going to investigate that? Are you going to investigate that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to do this? What are you going to say in court? That's on you. In the private sector, a lot of my experience are people who their decision making is who to pass it on to make a decision, and that's not decision making. And if you want to get ahead, you need to become a decision maker. We all think we are, we decide we're going to have for breakfast when we're watching TV, but when it comes down to the actual crunch, you're making a decision that's going to affect maybe whether a business gets to continue banking, whether a person gets their account exited, whether we're going to disclose the NCA about because we believe criminality. People start to it's uncomfortable. And it's getting people to, to be comfortable in those situations. That's the push for me.
So, of course, now we know that you stay motivated due to being associated with your work accolades more so.
Yeah.
But how are you outside of work? What is Andy outside of work? How do you describe yourself?
Drinking tea, eating biscuits, lots of swearing, riding motorbikes. I do worry slightly that coming out of the career that I've had, I'm operating in the danger zone for too long. And I kind of think this because when I ride a bike, that's the calmest I am. So,
that's very interesting.
So, yeah, and I don't know if that's a good thing. I think
But is that how you approach life? Like, are you quite a risk taker? And seeing how, you made the shift and you just went for things, I feel like you do have that level of personal trust to take these risks. But are you like that in personal life as well, like outside of work?
So, yeah, interesting. So I back myself. For life, if you're not going to back yourself, no, who else is going to do it? So I back myself. So it's not, throw your cap in the air and hope it lands. It will be like, that looks good. I like that. Can I make that happen? And what can I do to make it happen? And it might be now or it might be 5 years in the future, but it'll be in the back of my mind then, and it'll be like, right, okay, that's something to move towards. But yeah, I don't know if I'm like a risk taker necessarily.
Would you say you're more of a calculated risk taker? Like, do you tend to analyze, pros and cons before you take that risk, or are you kind of like feel the fear but do it anyway?
Definitely probably more analytical. But I was like very shy as a kid, like painfully shy, and
that's surprising.
Yeah,
genuinely.
Is it? Oh, I don't think I spoke to opposite sex till I was like 21.
No way.
I was painfully shy as a kid. And I got to 18 and I decided I didn't want to be shy anymore. And I went and got a job in a bar. And it was like pushing myself out of the comfort zone. I thought, okay, that's it. And that's where I've kind of operated. It's like, no, push yourself. So when there's like group events, when there's, team building, exercises, all that rubbish. Whenever there's like, we need a volunteer, I was like, I'll go first.
Okay.
Because I think because one, there's a thing, let's get it over and done with. Two, I think there's a little bit of there's a lot of self-belief and a bit of arrogance there, and I think I'll probably do it better than other people. And three, it's like, well, what's the worst can happen?
What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, let's go get this done. And yeah, and because of that, and there's a lot of self-drive, a lot of determination. Because I was shy, there's a lot of drive to not be shy, and I don't know if that makes sense. And then decision making, when I get back to that, decision making is such a massive skill that people don't have, and you don't have it unless you practice it. And we were very lucky to come out of the policing, so we had a lot of practice of doing it, and we had a lot of practice at like extreme pressure.
Yeah.
But I work with people now that they just never had to do it, and yeah, I don't know. I've wandered off topic.
No, you haven't. It's absolutely fine. Speaking of risk taking, and of course, your love for motorbikes. You did recently have a health scare. How did that affect you, not only physically but mentally? And how has that changed your outlook on life?
Yeah, fairly significantly. I don't know. It feels like I should say yes, significantly. But it's also a little bit no, in that, I haven't really adjusted my behaviour too much when I probably should have. Should I say what it is?
So do you still ride your motorbikes? And do you make sure you take, have you changed little things, like making sure you take out time to do the things that sometimes you would put to the side, kind of thing? Are you kind of like, it is good weather, I'm gonna ride my motorbike, and everyone's getting together for drinks, so I'm gonna make sure I go? Has any of that changed?
A little bit, yeah. I'm putting less value on work right now, and more on like me, my family, friends. But I mean, the health issue is like, I don't want to get too much detail, but it's like fairly serious, and then
it's up to you if you want to reveal it.
Yeah, potentially.
I will leave that to you.
Could kill me. I've been told to be very careful, but you're not. It's a little bit boring to be that careful. So it's a weird one.
Have you turned more into like a YOLO person? Are you now just a bit like, I will take the risk, and I'm only living once, and let me make most of it?
Yeah, I really don't know. It's a difficult one to say. Like, actually, I fell off my motorbike back in May and broke my shoulder, and I had to go to the hospital and blah blah. They wheeled me in, and I was on gas and blah blah blah. And the paramedic spoke to the doctor at the desk, was like, "Oh, have you got any health conditions?" I was like, "Oh, no, just my shoulder." And the paramedic said, "No, he's got this thing that I have." And the paramedic and the doctor said, "Oh yeah, serious." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got that as well." Completely slipped my mind.
Okay. So you're not making it something that, I guess, you're not making it part of your life to be that significant. You're just kind of like, yeah, I have it, but let's not change how I'm kind of doing things. You're not letting it take you down, I guess.
No, but at the same vein, like, I probably should be doing more, like, because it really, like, the fatigue, like general aches off the back of it, it's not a pleasant thing to have. And I really should probably be like resting more, and but then I'm like, I'm missing out, I also think, when I fell off my bike, I might have fallen off because I was tired from this as well.
Okay. Right.
So there's that. So yeah, it's a weird one, and I complete contradiction. I don't know. I really don't know. I can't explain it. So.
Maybe after this conversation, you'll reflect a bit more. So we're getting to the last segment of our podcast today. And this is when you'll get to choose your own question. But you have to choose one of three commodities, let's say. So your question will appear depending on what you choose. So do you choose cash, crypto, or commodities like gold, for example?
Cash is king, PV.
Cash is king. So your question under cash is, what are your goals for the next year?
So this is going out in a couple of months. So I'm going to talk about this. So I have an interview which I will have found the result of by the time this podcast goes out. That is a significant step up in my career ladder trajectory, whatever I call it. So if I get that will be goal accomplished. And it puts me into a completely different area of financial crime, a fairly senior one. Be fantastic. If I don't get this, we'll have to record 2 versions of this, a good one and a bad one. If I don't get it, I'm not majorly bothered by it. Like I've got a chance to do something. I would have applied for this role probably in a year's time. However, it came up now, and you never know what's going to come up again, so you may as well go for it. So yeah, I'll be doing, the worst case scenario, I'll be doing the same but better.
Yeah.
The best case scenario, I'll be in a different role, learning more.
Any personal goals?
Personal goals, you're putting me on the spot now, I don't know.
Continue being awesome.
Yeah, that. Yeah, buy more motorbikes.
Buy another bike.
I've got a garage now. I've never had a garage, so.
Wow! So you can actually get another bike.
I'm bidding on one at the moment.
Oh wow! Okay, that's interesting.
You may wonder why a man needs 2 bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question should be, why do you need 3?
Why do you need 3?
Because why not? They fit in the garage. That's all you need to know.
Well, now you have a garage to fill it all up with, so why not?
Exactly.
That's a good goal. Get another bike, a new year,
Kettle,
new bike.
Pillow. It's me sorted.
That is you sorted. Thank you so much for being here today, Andy. And since you took the question from Cash, you also get to replace it. So I'm going to give the book to you to actually write down a question for our next guest. So
do I have to say like cash, crypto?
Commodities.
Yeah.
So you chose cash. So you replaced the cash question.
Okay.
Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment and let me know what else you want me to discuss, and subscribe to stay tuned for more.